I was working probably 15, 16 hours a day, had an impact naturally on my health, led to putting on 30 kilos in just 6 months. Fast forward now, one thing I've realised is you have to look after yourself first in order to look after others, whether that's at work or in your personal life. The technology allows us to free up our time, and it's important that when clients feel overwhelmed with technology, how can we break down that barrier slowly so that we're not sitting on the opposite ends of the table, we're actually sitting together with our clients and embracing rather than forcing that change. TikTok's going to be one of the world's largest educational platforms. I was trying to post one a week initially. I started enjoying the videos. I realized, there is actually a need for doing this sort of stuff, giving back. Also going into schools as well, doing mentorship. If I can inspire one person to understand that accountancy is not just about going to university, there is another avenue. You can do an apprenticeship, not having that student debt. That's one option. It's all about having those conversations.
Hello and welcome to another episode of When It Matters, the Meshed podcast. I'm Derek Granger and I head up the accountancy partnership channel here at Meshed. And today I am joined by... I'm just going... It's like your name just went totally out of my head.
This quality. I love it. That's a quality. I think you should leave this bit in the podcast.
So I'm not joined by Vinod Shah. I'm joined by Ravi Shah. Apologies, Ravi. I don't know what happened there with my brain. But Ravi Shah from Vinod Shah. Ravi, how are you doing?
I'm really well, thank you. And I think my dad is Vinod actually, so he'll probably find this funny. But I do get called Vinod quite a lot, especially when I first joined the practice, because everybody knows the main boss, Vinod, that's my dad. But a lot of clients kept on referring to me as Vinod. But luckily now, some of them have managed to remember my name now.
Do you know what? See, on the way here, right, I'm trying to dig myself out of this hole and I'll do a terrible job here. But on the way here, I was like, right, so Ravi Shah, what's the name of the firm? It's Vinod Shah. Remember Vinod Shah? I had the name of the firm. I forgot your name instead. So yeah, schoolboy error. But it is lovely to actually meet you in person because we've had a couple of conversations kind of on video calls and stuff now. And also, you know, following you in conversations on LinkedIn and also on TikTok. Before we go any further, do you want to give us a wee quick intro about yourself and just a wee bit of the backstory, and then we'll delve into it a bit more once we get into things?
Absolutely, and thanks a lot, Derek. It's a pleasure to be here today. So I'm Ravi, and we have our family accountancy practice, Vinod Shah Company Accountants, which was established when I was about 3 years old, actually, in 1989. It started off as a side hustle where my dad, Vinod, used to lecture on accountancy related courses, and as a side hustle, because of the amount of holidays that he used to get, he sort of set up the practice and had a few clients such as friends, families, and that's how it all started off.
Wow.
My mum, she actually worked for an accounting firm for 30 years, a local one close by to where we live, and she joined forces. And when I went off to university, they had a full-time business in operation with a small team. I then sort of graduated probably at the wrong time, some would say, in the financial crisis in 2008. And I fell into insolvency because that industry was booming. Whilst you remember in 2008, don't you, Derek, how MFI went into administration, Clinton's cards and Adams and lots of other big names that went into admin.
Yeah.
And that's how I really sort of fell into insolvency for a sort of short period. But then I joined the family practice.
Interesting. That is actually, so it was either 2008, 2009 when I actually started working in the accountancy industry, and it was because of the financial crisis. I was working with a large multinational business, a completely separate industry. But I was getting married. We were due to get married, and I needed to earn more money. And I thought there was a couple of jobs that were coming up that I thought, I'll probably get that when that guy retires, but then they get made redundant instead. And there was a wage freeze and all of that stuff. I need to get a new job.
Absolutely.
And I ended up in tax investigation insurance, working for, at the time, it was a small company based in Essex, who worked with accountants. And that was my introduction into accountants, actually, was way back then. through tax investigation insurance. Never thought I would be working with accountants. It was not on my agenda. I've loved it. I loved it. Yeah, pretty much I've stayed in that ever since. But tell me, so with your dad being in accountancy and your mum joining forces with him, was always on the cards then for you? Did it always look like you were going to become an accountant?
So a lot of people do ask that, and it's a great question because that's the path that one would assume that I would go through. I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do, which is why I chose sort of business management with accounts at university. I quite enjoyed my marketing modules, and I guess that's where the TikTok and all that sort of comes into play right now. So wasn't quite sure exactly what I wanted to do. I knew something in the business or finance or entrepreneurship field, but I wasn't actually quite sure whether it was accounting. But after I tried insolvency, I think that was a bit too cutthroat for me, and I sort of went into accounting as a result, and I've pretty much loved it, to be honest. It was a bit of a cultural shift, having 200-300 people in the office versus a small team,
Yeah.
being in a family business, and that was the slight change. However, in a small business, you get to basically know the whole part of the job as opposed to working in a bigger company in the corporate field. I remember I was working on a big job, but just a small part of the job on a repetitive basis.
Yeah. So I'm assuming then, I'm assuming, like, it'd been possible for you not to have seen many of the big changes that have came in over the past kind of 15 years or so, the move to cloud. And of course, now we've got the big push, I suppose the push with automation, more so. And now the AI kind of revolution that we're in the midst of, or some might say we're right at the start of, depending on who you listen to and kind of where it's going. But take me back to what it looked like a wee bit. What did the day look like back at the start of your accounting journey, and then maybe talk about some of the evolutions that you've seen.
Again, that's a great talking point, Derek. And when I speak at certain events such as Zero or Digital Accountancy Show, and more recent, I'm speaking at a Fab, and it is on these sort of topics in terms of how we evolved as a firm. And initially, you can imagine my day being driving to the office, which was a 10-minute drive from where we lived, which was great. The commute was perfect. The office environment was very much paperwork, very, very heavy on the lever arch files. I still remember them. I have nightmares sometimes, the amount of files that we had.
Yeah.
And the filing cabinets as well. We just had one whole room just dedicated for paper files. I'll give you an example. When we used to raise a sales invoice, we had our company headed paper. We would military operations, pop that in the printer, hit the print button, making sure that everything aligns. As soon as that's printed, we would then scan that, and we would save that on our eDrive, shared drive, and we would actually go to the post office and post that invoice. That's the amount of time it used to take just to raise an invoice to a client. Whereas now, using Zero cloud accounting softwares, we can email the invoice to our clients within 20 seconds or less.
Yeah. I mean, there has been some big shifts. In terms of the kind of coming up to date now, how kind of forward thinking are you guys in terms of the technology that's coming out, and are there any things that you are looking at the moment that you're quite excited about?
Well, I'll just give you an example in terms of how we made the shift to the cloud accounting software. We were actually using sort of a desktop-based software for many years because we'd always done things that way. And a lot of accountants that I speak to, they want to make that change, but then there's that fear and there's that panic of learning a new software, or perhaps externally communicating that to clients, and clients not quite being happy with that. And because you're in your comfort zone, it's very easy just to stay where you are. So with us, and I'm sure my parents, when they listen to this, they won't mind me saying, but the resistance to change wasn't external, but it was more internal. And naturally, I understand from their perspective because they were used to doing things that way for gosh, 25, 30 years.
We're creatures of habit, aren't we?
A-
We like things to stay the same as much as
Absolutely.
possible.
And then I just come rocking up in the office saying, yeah, let's move over to Zero and let's basically go cloud based, which was a little bit of a change naturally. But I was quite fortunate that we had a family friend and who's a mentor to our practice, and he helped facilitate that change, bridge that gap between, first of all, internally between myself and my parents to explain the benefits. And once my parents were on board, that was perfect because we were all on the same page. And with clients, the way that we approached things was just to sort of explain things in depth, not just send an email and say, look, get on with it. But we actually had training sessions with our clients to actually make them feel comfortable so that they understand what the software is and what the benefit for the clients are, because cloud-based accounting software is just great, isn't it? You know, it's a lot more proactive way that we can work with our clients, and we can really create huge synergies and benefits by using just the cloud softwares. Things are more proactive. You can see things on a weekly, monthly basis versus just being your once a year accountants and getting a client to come in the office to sign that tax return and tell them how much tax to pay. I think things have evolved a lot more in terms of technology, in terms of accounting software, and also, as you mentioned, with AI.
Yeah. So in terms of the solutions that you use within the practice, are you kind of more kind of one? Like a lot of people talk about, are you blue or are you green, or do you use multiple?
Well, we used to
solutions?
we used to be green for a very long time. Using Sage.
Yeah.
Software solutions, and that helped build our practice, so we can't fault that at all. But I think what it was is at that time when we wanted to transition, Sage weren't quite ready with their products for small business owners. And with Zero, I think we had other accountants in our consortium who changed to Zero, and sometimes it's nice to do that journey alongside other accountants as well. And that's what we did. We transitioned onto Zero, and because we saw the benefits of cloud accounting software, not just only internally in terms of paperwork and not having the clients coming every month with a carrier bag or boxes of receipts, our clients could focus on their businesses, and we could actually provide more time to our clients by adding value to their businesses, rather than just having admin meetings saying that, oh, XYZ invoice is missing. It eliminated that grey area, because it was either on our digital software Zero or it wasn't. So if it wasn't, then there might have been a glitch. We'd just ask the clients to send an email again, as opposed to the cat and mouse game that I'm sure it was in the box.
Yeah. No, I totally get that, and I think you touched on a point there that that's something that I think is really important, something that's very important to me. We're always very conscious when on the podcast we don't really talk about Mesh and what Mesh do, because people want to know they can come and have a chat with us. But I was having a call with an accountant just before this, who actually needs some insurance, and he was on our website while we were chatting, and he said something to me which struck a chord, and I had to make sure that he was fully aware of. He's like, so is this all done online, or will I actually be able to speak to someone? And for us, what we've tried to do, and when we built the business, is to try and use technology to do the bits that technology is really good at, to free up our team so that we can spend more time with clients. So actually, it was saying, not like we want to meet with you at the start, we want to meet with you at the end, we want to talk it through with you and make sure that, like for us in insurance, make sure that people have got the right cover in place. And I see there's similarities there, I think, between that, regardless of what industry you're in, but specifically in accounting, is that by using technology and leveraging it, for me, it's not about trying to replace advisors. It's freeing up advisors to do more of the stuff that they're really good at. And would you say that, are you seeing that kind of more and more now within your own practice, that you've got more time? Because we spoke about this before we come on. You love to talk. I love to talk. Like, are you finding you're getting more time to do the stuff that you love doing, and that it adds that real value?
Oh, absolutely. And I think that's such an important point that you've raised. technology can do the heavy lifting, and it allows us to add value to our clients. I've got more time to do podcasts like this right now, which I really enjoy. Again, speaking at accounting events, also going into schools as well and giving back, doing mentorship. So last 2 weeks ago, I was at my former school, just giving a sort of a speed questionnaire event where there were students, and we were just talking about interview practice and
Yeah, brilliant.
and things like that. And that really makes me happy that even if one person, if I can inspire one person to understand that, for example, accountancy is not just about going to university necessarily, that there is another avenue where you can do an apprenticeship and also learn as you're going along on the job, not going to university, not having that student debt. That's one option versus the other option about going to university. So it's all about having those conversations. But going back to your point that technology allows us to free up our time by utilizing it in an efficient way. And it's important that when clients feel overwhelmed with technology, because we've had that, how can we break down that barrier slowly, so that way we're not sitting on the opposite ends of the table. We're actually sitting together with our clients and embracing that change rather than forcing that change upon the clients.
Yeah, and I think as well, I mean, for me, I think when you love what you do, like now I feel that technology allows me to have more flexibility to do things as and when, I can fit them in. I know some people talk a lot about work-life balance. For me, I don't really see the two separate things. I mean, clearly, there's work stuff and there's kind of, personal life stuff. But I feel that with technology and, obviously now that we've got a lot more people working from home and stuff like that, that you can adapt. So like you going into school, I do a lot of stuff, previously having worked at EY, I was involved with the EY Foundation. Last week I was in speaking to some young budding entrepreneurs and just telling them a bit of my story and answering questions. It was unbelievable. I would say I've done it a number of times now, but that was the best group that I've had. They were just so sharp. So many of them had side hustles already. And some of them I'm like, God, you've got a really good idea there. But I think with technology, you can go and do something like this today and then catch up on stuff later. You don't have to be in the office, sat there in front of a desk, 9 to 5, doing the work. And if you happen to go and do something else, it's like, well, I need to try and, how am I going to make up that time? But what another bit that I do want to touch on, and there's loads of stuff that I want to speak to you about, Ravi, but so I first seen you at an event that my good friends and ex-colleagues, James and Dan from the Digital Accountancy Show, had put on in conjunction with Sage last year. And you were up chatting about your journey and the changes and stuff like that. And it was after that I reached out to you on LinkedIn and then started seeing you on TikTok. I love TikTok. My TikTok is an absolute mess, right enough, as I was mentioning to you. It's a combination of some business stuff and then me and my kids doing silly things. But talk to me about, or tell me a bit more about kind of how and why you got into social media and doing it the way that you do it, because you do it in a very unique way, in a way that I absolutely love. So yeah, I'd love to kind of understand kind of when did you think I'm going to start doing all these videos and stuff and kind of standing out for the crowd.
Well, thanks for the compliments, first of all, Derek. But yeah, it's one of my mentors actually just said to me when we were in a masterclass in Spain, I remember, that why haven't you got a TikTok channel? And I responded, well, I do like dancing around, but not doing videos of me dancing around. And at that point, he laughed and he said, TikTok's going to be one of the world's largest educational platforms. And that struck a chord with me. And I thought, well, let me jump on the bandwagon and let me see if this works out. And I started enjoying the videos. I think I was trying to post one a week initially, just to get used to it, and then I started doing more and enjoying more, and also there was a lot more engagement. There's a lot more people writing things in the comment section, so I realized, oh, there is actually a need for doing this sort of stuff, and it seemed that I was helping people out, which was making me happy in that sense, that I was advising people small things such as how to apply for a unique tax reference number, doing some videos on that, and people were just responding saying, thanks, I've managed to get my 10-digit UTR number. Going from that to a bit more technical things such as landlords who had failed to disclose their buy-to-let investment property income, and how HMRC allows an amnesty scheme, which is called Let Property Campaign Scheme, to allow them to come forward and say, look, I'm sorry, I've made a mistake, but I want to get all my tax affairs up to date. So by explaining this and breaking things down, it actually led to a lot of inquiries where I gave individuals my free guides and help them get their tax affairs up to date without it being a full-blown investigation from HMRC. So those two things really, really helped. And also, like yourself, I like to post a little bit of my personal things on there. So I guess my TikTok's a bit of a mess in that way as well. But I think that's a good thing because it allows people to see the real you, rather than just the accountant.
Yeah, it's getting your personality across. Do you find that through that, is it a good kind of business development marketing channel, or is it more about kind of just kind of raising your profile? Are you getting people coming to you kind of as a result of that? How does it?
Well, I'd say it's both. I'll give you a couple of examples. So the first time I got a client from TikTok, I was a bit confused because that was never the goal. It was more just to sort of give a bit of information, raise profile, and I guess practice a new skill, because I'm used to talking in a room full of people, but it's very difficult, very different when you're just talking to yourself on a video, where I was doing about 20 different takes saying, let me change this. But yeah, we got a client, and I thought maybe that's just luck, really. And then when the inquiries started coming, I thought this is actually something that's a sort of a regular occurrence that's happening. Lead generation, and people are reaching out by emails, and it does get busy sometimes. It's more in phases, but depending if certain videos, I realised that my niche seems to be on TikTok is to do anything with properties. Landlords who again rent properties, and now MTD's coming into place as well, and combining both the cloud accounting software solutions for compliance and filing, and also making sure that landlords are compliant. There's a lot of people asking questions that what should I be doing if my turnover is above 50,000? So I say from April, which is literally around the corner, you need to be filing not just one self-assessment tax return like you do, it's quarterly returns plus a final submission towards the end. And this goes back to our point about being proactive, doing things on a more periodic basis rather than just leaving it to the last minute and doing it once a year.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that and this is just my take on your stuff that you put on, is that you do go into quite a lot of detail on things and you give people essentially the stuff that for some of them they could go away and do it themselves. But actually, I think that's why it works, because people could go, oh, I could do that, and then they might go and start to do it and then go, oh, actually, that's a bit harder than I thought. I'll go back to the guy who told me how to do it, because he clearly knows how to do it. I think it was actually Dan Cockerton that spoke about it on a previous podcast episode, but we've spoke about this, kind of in conversations for years. Some of the most successful people that we know are those that actually they don't gatekeep, they give away the information, because it's one thing to tell somebody how to do something, it's an entirely different thing to actually go and do it. Has that been a conscious thing, or is it just part of who you are?
I think it's part of who I am, and since I joined the family practice, the way I saw my parents serve the clients, they pretty much didn't just give them a trailer, they gave them the whole movie, and that way it built a bit more trust as well. And I'm quite talkative as it is, so if anybody's got any questions when I'm talking to them, I'm happy to be completely transparent and explain to them, look, option A is if you want to do it yourself, this is how to do it. Because if they go away and do it and they're happy, they're still going to remember me.
Yeah.
And equally, if I've given them all the information, then they can make a judgment call. If they did want to use me, then we'll happily help. So I think it's more about building the trust, and then relationships are always built on trust, aren't they, Darren?
Oh, without a doubt. Actually just gave me a recollection of a guy I used to do work with. So I was involved in R&D tax credits for quite a period of time, and there was a chap that I used to work with, one of the big boutiques, but he's I think he was ex Big Four or Grant Thornton or something. I forget. A chap called Alex Price, who I used to go with him and we'd speak to accountants and stuff about R&D tax credits, and he had that great knack of being able to make a really complicated thing, like explain it in such a way that people could understand, but also explain it in such a way that you go, right, I understand it now, but I want you to do it. and it's a skill, it really is. I'm still trying to learn that. I'm 45 now. I know I don't look at least 55, but I'm still trying to learn that skill. But it sounds like it's something that just comes naturally to you, or to say come naturally, I always think when we say things come naturally to people, it's almost like making it sound less than what it is. It's probably something that's built up over years and years of practice, and obviously having good people around you, your parents, to follow. I love that what you said there about not just giving the trailer, giving the whole movie. I'm going to steal that. I am going to steal that. I hope that's all right.
Of course it is, yeah.
But you also mentioned a couple of times there just about mentors, and that's something that I've been. I don't have any paid mentors at this point in time, but I've got some mentors, or just people who are a bit ahead of me. It's not to say I've had mentors previously where I have paid for them, and I probably will again. But is that something particularly for? I'm going to say for less experienced, younger accountants who might be listening into that. Is that something that you would recommend for people? Because it's something that I am very, very passionate about, is that if you want to know how to do something, you want to try and find a shortcut on it, find somebody that's a couple of steps ahead. And that is, they'll be able to tell you and hopefully help you to avoid some of the mistakes. Or at least in my case, recognise the mistakes when you make them and go, I've got a guy I've worked with for years, and we often chat. We chat kind of most weeks. And I'm constantly having to say to him, that thing you told me, yeah, it happened. And he's like, I told you.
No, you're absolutely right. And when it comes to mentors, that can come in different forms and different shapes. So initially, if I look at, I'm very blessed to have my parents as my mentors as well. And my wife has also joined the family practice on a part-time basis, where she takes off a lot of the heavy lifting in terms of the bookkeeping, the payroll off me, and I learn a lot from my wife as well, even though she's an optometrist by profession. But basically, in terms of organisation, because I'm terrible, I'll be honest with you. When it comes to doing clients' work, I'm in full form. But when it comes to sometimes doing my own, I'm lucky in that sense that my wife helps me with the organisation side, and I think that that's really important. So mentors from that side. Really fortunate again to have our family friend who continues to mentor us in terms of the practice, because he's over 70, but he's more tech savvy than I'll ever be. And it's really good to say, Ravi, have you done this? Have you done that? Have we looked into this? Have we looked into that? And these sort of things, I guess, keep me on my toes as well. And also, I want to be constantly learning and evolving, because it's not just important for our practice, but that filters down onto our clients as well. And for young people listening on here as well, that you don't necessarily need to have paid mentors initially. If you can get mentorship from podcasts, from books as well, reading books. There's so much out there online that whoever inspires you, you learn from, and that's the way I see it. And it's not just in the accounting space or what you do, but I have a personal training session every Tuesday morning, and on Thursday mornings, I have a group session, and one's at 6 o'clock in the morning and one's at 7. Now that holds me accountable to basically get to the gym, and it's a great form of mentorship
Yeah.
for your health and your well-being on that side of things as well, isn't it?
Yeah, so I'm glad you said that, because in my head I was thinking it's a terrible thing, but I think it's the curse of a podcast host is that you're listening, but at the same time you're trying to think of like the next question and stuff like that, and I was thinking to myself as you're talking, Ravi's looking pretty fit. I'm sure we had a conversation where he told me that he'd been on a real health kick over the last few years. And I'm thinking, I hope I'm right on that, because if I'm wrong and I say that, he might take it the wrong way. Like, forget your name at the start and then say, "Oh, you're looking fit." Did you used to be a wee bit?
You're absolutely right. I mean, we had a call a couple of months ago now, wasn't it, Derek? And I explained the journey, which I openly talk about during COVID. Our staff were furloughed, and because my parents are my business partners, naturally, as a son, there's that emotional side of things where I didn't want anything happening to them. And I remember that we didn't have cloud accounting software, unfortunately, back then, otherwise it would have worked wonders. So we had to physically go into the office to get the work done. And I think as a result of burnout, now I realize, at the time I thought it was just normal. I was working probably 15, 16 hours a day, had an impact naturally on my health, led to sort of putting on 30 kilos in just 6 months, which was absolutely crazy. To the point, I remember when I was going for walks, my knees were actually hurting as well. But fast forward now, probably the best shape I've been in, physically, mentally, achieved my personal best for running the half marathon that I did, running quicker than I was when I was 25, and I'm going to be 40 this year. So it's nice to see the progress and improvements. But for me, in terms of where I was, I wouldn't want to be there again, because one thing I've realized is you have to look after yourself first in order to look after others, whether that's at work or in your personal life. So it's really important that, have some time for yourself, whether it's in the morning or whatever, your own routines are. That time is so precious, because that can shape the way your whole day goes.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I've always, I say always, but certainly for most of my adult life, I've been pretty active. Loved hill walking, stuff like that. I used to do a bit of trail running and stuff. Then my kids came along, so I've got a 9-year-old and a almost 7-year-old now. And it's harder to get away and do things like that. But I had a knee operation last year. I still played football, and like most folk who keep playing football into their 40s, eventually something goes pop. And for me, it was my meniscus in my knee that decided it was going to go pop. And so I had a period there for about a year where I wasn't doing so much while I was waiting for the operation, and then after the operation. But I've been really trying to get back into it, and certainly over the last 6 to 8 months, I've been pretty consistent, starting to feel the difference. And I managed to get out in the hills for my first walk.
I saw on LinkedIn, I commented on your post. To talk me through that walk. Sorry, I know I shouldn't be asking you questions.
No. I love when people ask me questions. Yeah, so obviously being part of this business and for other things that I do, plus having a young family, things can get on top of you at times. And I was just feeling a bit like this is only the start of the year, and I'm in at a point kind of towards the end of February, thinking like I'm already starting to feel not overwhelmed. That'd be too much, but just things are tough. I need to do something. And for me, the thing that's always worked better than anything else is getting in the hills. Because once you get out of the car, 10, 15 minutes walking, something about putting one foot in front of the other, and also going up on an incline where you start to kind of, you're panting for your breath. And particularly if and I was ended up two, my friend, my best friend and his wife, who she came along as well, which was a great kind of unexpected, not surprised, he told me beforehand, but it was great to the two of them. But you're chatting away and just catching up with each other. And just heading and and there's something about that for me, yeah, that just nothing else really compares to it. So yeah, taking a day out of work in the week as well. I think it's like you feel like you're cheating because
Exactly, yeah.
everybody else is doing stuff. And of course, it kind of goes back to the point I made earlier about now with technology we can be away. I didn't look at my phone while I was there, but when I got back to the car, oh, right, I've got a few things I need to reply to them, and then done things once I get home at night. But yeah, I think it's really important for anybody to make sure that you take some time for yourself, because they use so many different sayings, analogies, or whatever. But you can't pour for an empty cup, and you need to
Absolutely.
make sure that you're fit and healthy yourself. And would you say from a even performance point of view at work, do you find that being better physically fit, that it's got a positive impact from a work point of view as well?
100%. Absolutely. Especially when I first joined my personal training gym that I go to, it was initially it was about getting help, and then afterwards, once I knew what I was doing and started enjoying it, the first 2 weeks felt like torture. But once you get into that routine, you actually really value that. And I noticed that I was a lot sharper. I was a lot less tired, feeling less lethargic, and that really helped, with my work, because I was far more efficient, had a lot more energy. And these things, when you compound all these positive factors, it really, really increases your productivity and who you are as a person as well.
Yeah, yeah. Do you know what? I found, and I'm certainly finding it at the moment, but just before my oldest boy was born, me and some of my friends done. I don't know if you've heard of like the 3 Peaks Challenge in the UK.
That's
So
right.
we
Yeah.
done the 5 Peaks Challenge, which
Wow.
includes the two in Ireland as well. And we raised money for Macmillan. And I mean, I'm certainly not a mountain leader or anything like that, but my other two mates, like, they get lost going to the shops. So I need to go, anytime they would go out in the hills themselves, they would phone me like in the middle of the house and Dale, we don't know where we
That is quality.
so,
But you mentioned about Macmillan and such a great cause, and I feel that when you pair up two really good things, such as you mentioned doing the 5 Ps and raising money as well, it's just even more meaningful, and it drives you forward. An example I'll give you is that I signed up my brother-in-law without realizing to do the London Marathon, and luckily we both got the places for St Luke's Hospice, and we were just having dinner, and I said, Amit, we're both running the marathon. I nominated you. And he thought I was joking. He said, "Yeah, right." And then, for fair play to him, he ended up doing the marathon twice, because during COVID, it was the virtual marathon
right.
that we did, and because we'd done quite a bit of fundraising for the hospice, they honoured another place for us the following year. So not only did he do one marathon, he ended up doing two. But
Fair play.
the point was, what you mentioned, is that it sometimes one foot for you mentioned the phrase putting one foot in front of the other, and that's exactly what we did in the marathon. Because when you look at life, sometimes a lot of people think it's a sprint, but actually it's a marathon, isn't it? There's
Yeah.
so many challenges, obstacles that are there, whether it's personal, family, finances, business, whatever it might be, health. So it's really important to just keep going and see life as a bit of a marathon, rather than just a sprint where you have to do everything all at once. Just, it's okay to pause and basically just plan which what thing you're going to be doing next.
Yeah, yeah, no, I'm so with you there. I think in business, I seen somebody said that, it's like growing a business is basically how many times you can get punched in the face
Yeah.
and keep coming back
Keep
for
coming back.
more.
Exactly.
But particularly on the marathon, because certainly when I was doing the charity thing with the 5 Peaks, I actually found, because we were having to do a lot of like kind of training walks and stuff like that, and you're out for the full day, so trying to manage that and manage work at the same time. At first it was a bit of a challenge, but actually I found that And I've seen this with other people, particularly friends of mine that have done the London Marathon, where having something like that, it forces you to be so kind of focused on doing things and, you know, getting things done that, yeah, I actually found that I was more productive in that year. It's probably my most productive year I've ever had in business. Because I had something else that I was trying to do at the same time. And I don't know if do you find the same?
I echo exactly what you're saying, because you think, oh gosh, I've got to train for this, or I'm running a marathon, or I'm doing the 5 Peaks challenge. How am I going to find the time? But somehow everything always falls into place. And what you mentioned about focus, I really found that to be true for myself as well. Whenever I'd be training for the marathon or going on my long runs, sometimes running would just be a form of meditation for me, just provide that form of clarity, and I'd be within my thoughts. But equally, sometimes an idea might pop up while I'm running. It might be, let me do a TikTok video on this, or
Yeah.
let me do X, Y, Z. You know, it's interesting because you're in your own sort of space. And work-wise, yeah, it's funny because I think I was having earlier nights in order to wake up early, because I'd always love to get my run out the way before I started work rather than after work. So yeah, and my personal trainer, going back to him, every quarter he motivates me and says, look, sign up for something, whether it's a 10K run, half marathon, what's your goal for this year? So I'm turning 40 this year, and I thought that I'm going to try and do high rocks, and that would be a great goal. Again, inspired by both of my personal trainers that I've had. They teamed up together, and I think they did the high rocks within, I think it was an hour and 2 minutes, which was
Wow.
incredible. In Manchester, actually, I went to watch them. Having met my account manager from Zero, I did 2 in 1. I sort of went over to the Zero offices in Manchester and stayed over, and then went to the High Rocks, and it was just inspiring to see so many people there who have trained for so long in order to do this. So that's something that I think is important. That it's important that whether it's gym, or whether it's going for walks, or whether it's playing football, or whatever it is that you're doing, if you sign up for something, again, it's that accountability. It holds you accountable, and it gets you out of bed, doesn't it?
Yeah. Without a
But
doubt.
versus thinking, oh, I should run a marathon, as opposed to just signing up to doing a 5K, 10K. It doesn't have to be a marathon,
Yeah.
but you know what I'm saying.
Well, because I love having something. If I've got a target in mind for something, then I've got much more focus on it, and I haven't done anything yet. Partly because of I was making sure that my knee is
Of course, yeah.
right to go where. Don't put this whole episode on Derek and his knee, man. All he does is talk about that bloody knee of his, but actually after my walk during the week, it was fine, and I nearly slipped in my backside on the way back down in a boggy bit, and I had to put a kind of a firm footing down, and not a problem at all. So I'm thinking I could probably start doing something. I fancy high rocks, I do. I think it's the type of challenge
Well,
that I would
on
enjoy.
paper, it looks quite simple, doesn't it? It's 8 exercises, and it seems simple, but then you combine it with the run, so that's where it gets challenging.
Yeah.
But it's just a challenge, isn't it? And sometimes you can team up with somebody. So something that comes to my mind is I had a meeting with one of my doctor clients, and every 3-4 months we sort of go out for a meal and talk about the accounts, how things are going. But I mentioned that this is one of my goals, and I didn't realise that he'd actually done a high rocks a few months ago. And he said, if you're up for it, why don't you come to London in the afternoon? And he said, we'll do a high rocks practice session in his gym. And he said, after that, he said, instead of going out to eat, he said, we'll have a coffee after and just go through the accounts.
Yeah.
And I thought, I've never ever, even thought that was a thing, but now it's people are doing different things, and I've said yes to him. We're meeting up, I think it's on the 21st of May, and we're going to be working out together, and then we'll catch up for a coffee and go through the accounts afterwards. So it's interesting, isn't it,
Yeah.
with how things have changed and evolved. But there's one thing that we spoke about, I remember, was personal finances being such a huge thing now as well, in terms of whether it's the younger generation, or whether it's people our sort of generation, or even the elderly, whether they're sort of almost into retirement, that there's a lot more education and awareness about personal finances nowadays, whether it's ISAs or SIPs, or whether it's as simple as being with Octopus Energy that I'm part of, and getting your free coffee
So I didn't know
rewards.
about that, and I'm with Octopus as well, so I'm going to be on I'm going to be onto that to try and keep up.
I'm the accountant in the family, but my brother-in-law is seen as the Indian version of Martin Lewis, where I'll say, "Oh, you can do X, Y, and Z," but then he'll come back to me and say, "No, but I'll give you an example of that." So on the Octopus app, if you're with them, you'll get some rewards, and they'll state that whether it's a free coffee at Cafe Nero. My brother-in-law took it to another level, saying that if you take your own coffee cup, you can get a stamp, a loyalty stamp, and get your free coffee. I thought it's a bit too much for me, but yeah, it's interesting. Doing these small things can make huge differences in terms of people's savings, and also with cashback sites and all sorts of things like that, or earning Avios. If you plan properly, and you can end up saving thousands of pounds just by being a bit money savvy, can't you?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I certainly growing up, I grew up in a kind of a scheme, as we call them, in Glasgow, or certainly in Scotland. So a rough bit of Glasgow. Nobody talked to us about, if they were talking to me about personal finance, I wasn't listening. But I'm pretty sure they weren't talking to me about it. It was just not a thing. I would say that certainly, my kids are too young to be thinking about that too much just now. But like my nieces and nephews who are a bit older seem to be a lot more savvy than I was at that age. So I think that's a positive thing, is that they're a bit
Absolutely
more switched on than.
Absolutely. I had a conversation with a 25-year-old who we're onboarding as a client now, but it made me think that she's just so savvy at 25 years old that he mentioned that I just want to top up my SIP. I think when I was 25 years old, I probably didn't even know what a SIP was, or if I did, I didn't really take much action. And this guy's 25 years old, and he's thinking about retirement already, which sort of blew my mind, actually. Thinking that there's a lot more financial literacy now. Again, YouTube videos, TikTok videos, and again, goes back to our full circle moment of mentors. So who can be classified as a mentor, and it's anything where you can really learn from and take something away and implement that and really action that for yourself. And you can pass that on to your friends and family as well, can't you? That's the beauty.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is one of the beauties of where we are with technology now, is that there's so much that you can, get for free through people like yourself on TikTok. Have you got a YouTube channel yet, Ravi?
I have actually just broken the mold, because before I was hiding behind my TikTok channel, but then what I thought was, I've got so much content that I'm going to start reposting these videos on Instagram, my Facebook, and also my YouTube channel that I've only got about 5 or 6 videos on there at the moment, but the aim is just to keep being consistent. Again, like showing up in the gym, just trying to keep consistent with my videos. Easier said than done, because sometimes I go through phases where I'm posting 3 times a week or 4 times a week, and then there's nothing for a week or so. So it's more about just scheduling posts, having a batch of content ready, and that way, just automating that process, just like we do with our personal finances or any bills that we've got, or mortgage payments that are going out. If we automate things, then we don't really need to think about it, because it's happening in the background.
Yeah, I think you'd be great doing kind of long form YouTube stuff. It's an area I keep looking at and going, right, I'm going to do it. I've done a couple of videos on YouTube, but not a huge amount. Kind of like yourself, probably repurposing other stuff onto it. But yeah, the great thing about YouTube obviously is that it can just keep generating opportunities for you, with that much longer tail. I'm just looking at the wee timer thing. We are starting to get close to the end time. I said this would probably happen, and I'm glad that it did, because it generally means that it's been a good podcast episode. If we go off in tangents, and I'll have a few questions that I'm planning and asking, but generally, if I don't get to ask many of them, it's worked well. But a couple of things I always like asking people. So one, in terms of where things are just now in the accountancy sector, and I'm putting you on the spot a wee bit here. What would you what do you think the biggest threat and the biggest opportunity is? Certainly for you within your own firm at the moment, whether that's technology or anything else. What would you say? So biggest threat, biggest opportunity.
So biggest threat I would say is that if accountants aren't ready for cloud-based accounting softwares, then they really need to get moving with that, especially from a compliance perspective, not being able to serve their clients potentially. That's really, really important. And an opportunity would almost be the reverse of the threat, that there's so much so many people. If we take landlords, for example, it's not just your once a year self-assessment tax return that you'll be doing for landlords. It's working with them on a proactive basis, and that will create opportunity, because now I think people don't want to just know how much tax they need to pay and panic and pay it last minute. People want to be ahead of the game. And if you can find yourself an accountant who's quite proactive, who cares and does things on a monthly, weekly, or whatever regular time frame basis, then that's going to be the momentum going forward. So that's what I feel.
And I'll say it because you won't, but that sounds awfully like you. Ravi. So yeah, if you're a landlord and you're looking for some help, I'm sure Ravi here and his team will be more than happy to have a chat with you. Another question I always ask people on the podcast, because I'm a big believer and I want to try and share positivity and good things. Because there's enough negative stuff out there in the world, that can really weigh people down. Within the accountancy sector, well, not just the accountancy sector actually, but so if you think there's other people out with that, but could you name 2 people that you think that people should be following on social media, whether that's on LinkedIn, TikTok? I mean, a lot of the people that we're going to be speaking to are going to be on LinkedIn. This is a lot of the promotion that we do is via LinkedIn. But yeah, could you think of 2, if not 2, then 1, but we'll try for 2 people that you think people should follow because they're either giving great advice, they're just good people, or whatever it may be.
One of them I'm going to say Alpesh Patel, who I mentioned is one of my mentors, and he's got 500,000 followers or something on TikTok. He's the top voice for LinkedIn, but the amount of content that he's providing, free content as well, just for people to understand their investments a little bit better, their pensions, managing their finances. He's played a huge role in me understanding a lot of things and explaining that onto other family and friends who have benefited as well. So definitely recommend that. I think he's written about 18 books. He's got his own hedge fund, and he's just really generous as a person.
I think I know who you're talking about. I think I've seen his stuff on TikTok. I might be wrong, but I think I have, and he's fantastic. If it is, if not, then there's somebody else who's also fantastic.
He is fantastic, and he's really generous with his time. And sometimes when I catch up with him for a walk or a coffee that we meet up in Hammersmith, it's always. I'm usually really talkative, but when I'm with him, I just try and just listen,
soak it in,
and soak it all in, because there's so much to learn from someone who's made it to that sort of level, and even a few tips and tricks and advice that you can get, then that's incredible. But I'd highly recommend following Alpesh Patel. And the second person I would say is actually I've got a coffee catch up, which I'm excited to meet with him, is Rory Sutherland. And he's, I think, a genius and a guru when it comes to marketing and explaining things and the psychology and the behavioral habits. So definitely follow Rory Sutherland if you're not already.
Yep, I would absolutely concur with that. The man is a genius. And I think that's a great point to stop the podcast. Ravi, it has been a pleasure. I knew it would be a good episode. Apart from me at the start, giving a complete mind fart. So I hope you will forgive me for that. Yeah, I'll cringe a little bit when the episode goes out. But do you know what? If you can't laugh at yourself, then there's something wrong. But yeah, it's been brilliant. Thank you so much. If people want to get in touch with you, are you happy for people to reach out with you?
Absolutely.
What's the best way for them to do that?
Absolutely. You can check out our website, which is www.vinodshah.co.uk. Also follow me on TikTok, and you can email me for anything you need, which is ravi@vinodshah.co.uk.
Awesome, Ravi.
Thanks, Derek.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
It's been a real pleasure. Thanks a lot, Derek. Take care.
Cheers, everyone. See you again.